Let's start by looking at the questions now. Okay, for this class our approach is going to be more question oriented than theory oriented. Let's look at the kind of questions that we're going to be encountering in our exam. This is the first question. After finishing his speech, the audience was invited to ask questions, right? Now think very carefully. What do you think about this question? After finishing his speech, the audience was invited to ask questions. Who do you think gave the speech? It was his speech. He should have given it. But in this sentence, what does it look like? It looks like the audience gave his speech. Why does it look like that? This certain ambiguity is what I'm talking about when we talk about correcting sentences from the point of view of modifiers. Okay, so this certain error came into the place because of the placement of this noun next to this. After finishing his speech, this sounds like let's say an adjectival modifier. Why does it sound like an adjectival modifier in the first place? Because it is referring to a person, right? After finishing his speech, if the sentence is supposed to make sense, how should you reframe it? He invited the audience to ask questions. Did you understand what we did over here? After finishing his speech is a modifier over here. Right next to it has to be the placement of the word that it is modifying, which in this case is he invited the audience to ask questions, because the entire thing should make sense like the original sentence, right? Did you see what we did over here? So for most of the questions related to modifiers, you'll see there's something wrong with the placement of the modifier or the noun or the other word that is supposed to go along with it, right? You're just supposed to look at the way you would want the sentence to make sense and then go ahead with it, right? In the previous sentence, let's look at it this way. In the previous sentence, we wouldn't have a problem, let's say logically, if the audience finished the speech. So grammatically, if you look at the sentence, after finishing his speech, the audience was invited to ask questions, is grammatically completely fine, right? But logically, it isn't fine. I mean, how can the audience finish his speech? He is supposed to finish his speech, right? Therefore, you've got to use logic over here to be solving these questions. And while grammatically it would look okay to you, it would not be logical enough. Let's look at the second question. He's enough tall to play basketball. Now you would know adverb of placement sort. He is tall enough. Right? Enough being an adverb over here. You place it right next to the word that it is modifying. So you'd ask me, Sonal, even if it was he is enough tall to play basketball, it was right next to tall, right? But no, when you use enough over here, the word that it starts modifying is this, is, right? So to make sense, to modify the right adjective, to modify the right word over here, which in this case is tall, you have to place it after the word. So therefore, making our sentence, he is tall enough to play basketball. Right? Let's look at the third question now. Take a minute to solve it. It's quite easy. Scarcely had I reached the station, then the train left, right? What you want to imply over here? You had just reached the station and the train left. right? So the error is for the choice of the word used, which is when over here. So scarcely had I reached the station when the train left, right? You want to signify the time, adverb of time, right? Which in this case is going to be when the train left, right? Let's look at question number 4 now. I bought a 400 years old painting in Germany. Now what do you think is the problem with this sentence? I bought a 400 years old painting in Germany. Look at this entire, look at this entire thing. What do you think it is? It is describing a noun, painting. Therefore, by virtue of that, it has to be an adjective. Yeah, makes sense? So if you look at it this way, a word that describes a noun, which in this case is painting, right? The word being 400 years old is of course an adjective, right? But what is wrong with this sentence? I bought a 400 years old painting in Germany. Does it sound offish? It sounds a little off, right? Why? Because of this certain word over here. I bought a 400-year-old painting. Now, why are we doing this? Now, if I were to say that the painting is these many years old, like let's say if I were to say this painting is 400 years old. What are we doing over here? We are telling you that when we quantified the number of years for this painting, it became a plural number which was 400. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. 400 years old. And that's exactly why the use of a hyphen in between 400 and years is going to be wrong. Because it's not a single word. But let's go back to our original sentence. When we say I bought a 400-year-old painting, we're talking about this entire thing, 400 year, being one word. Yes, this entire thing that you see over here, this thing that you see over here is one word. Therefore, we have to take the plurality of years away and it would only be 400-year-old painting. So that thing is an adjective. Right? Think about it as a rule, okay? So if I'm saying she is 10 years old, right? She is 10 years old. We are talking about the plurality of the years over here. But if I say the 10-year-old girl is swimming, what are we talking about over here? We're talking about the quality of the girl being 10-year-old, modifying the words associated with the girl. We're bringing more meaning to the word girl. Therefore, 10-year-old, it's the adjective part of it is not going to have the plurality of the years over there. Also, important to understand is that when we are making an adjective out of various words, like in this case, we add hyphens over there. Okay, So this in itself is an adjective. It's a complete word. 400-year-old is a complete word. Therefore, usage of hyphens over here is guaranteed. You have to use hyphens over here to make an adjective out of these sentences. Put randomly together, they wouldn't make sense. Alright, let's move on to the next question. I hope you could understand this one. The answer is, I bought a 400-year-old painting in Germany. The plurality of years doesn't have to be there, right? Okay, let's move on. Question number 5. She was sitting closely beside him. What do you think is wrong with this sentence? Closely, right? So, have you heard of the word closely? Yes, we have. So, closely is an adverb, and so is close. But they're used slightly differently, okay? So when we say she was sitting closely beside him, what we mean is that we want to show her placement with respect to him, right? Therefore, the right verb or the right adverb to be used over here in this case is close, right? The adverb of placement. So the sentence should be, she was sitting close beside him. Where do we then use closely? Where is closely used then? So closely is used for sentence constructions where we are showing not physical placement, but we're showing an association. Let's say she is closely associated to him. So we're not talking about the physical presence, physical placement of this girl with respect to him. When we're showing the physical placement, we're using the word close. Or when we're showing, let's say, a not so physical, but maybe, with respect to relationships, with respect to, how they're closely associated, mentally, then we would use the adverb closely. Right? Did it make sense? I hope it did.